Hello again, Year 10, and welcome to our second lesson on quadratics. Now, you might recall last lesson we looked at how to expand two brackets. One of the new skills on the GCSE that they require of you is to expand three brackets. So you can pretty much guarantee, with this being a new area, a new topic, that this often appears on one of the exams at the GCSE. Technically, what you're going to find today is the result of expanding three brackets isn't technically a quadratic expression. However, since we've just multiplied out two brackets, this is the perfect time to extend into seeing how this works with three brackets. So to multiply out three brackets, we are going to start with the bit of maths that we already know. We already know how to multiply out two brackets. So we're going to ignore the third bracket and we are going to multiply out the first two brackets and simplify that expression. And then you'll find we need to take everything in that new bracket and multiply it by the final bracket. So there's a lot to do. Lots of places you can go wrong with your signs very easily, and lots of simplifying to do along the way. So let's take a look at this initial example. So if you're going to maximize your chances of success at this topic, you really need to think about how you're setting your work out, and very much set out your work in the same way as me. You don't necessarily need to use highlighter pens. I'm just doing this so you can visually see what is going on as I try and work this out. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at these first two brackets. I am going to do nothing with the x plus 3 at this early stage. So we already know how to multiply out two brackets, but I'm going to put my answer in another big bracket. So my answer to x plus 2 times x plus 5 is going to go here. So I know from first outer inner last from FOIL, it would be x squared times 5 and the x is 5x. The inners would be 2x. And the lasts would be 10. If I simplify that, that is, still write it in a bracket, x squared plus 7x plus 10. Now, that is the answer to the first two brackets, but I still have this x plus 3 that I have not used. So I am going to write x plus 3 on the end of each of these lines. Everything is now equivalent again. So notice what I've done first. I've multiplied out the first two brackets just like last lesson. Now what I need to do is everything in this first bracket needs to be times by this second bracket. So all of the bits of pieces, the x squared, the 7x and the 10, all need to be times by x. So I'm going to do that bit first. I'm going to take each of these terms and times them by x. After that, each of these terms in the first bracket also need to be multiplied by 3. So I'm then going to take them all and times them by the positive 3 as well. Now, because in this first example, I've done lots of positive signs, we're not going to need to worry too much about the signs. So, I'm going to start with x squared times x. Well, an x squared times another x is an x cubed. So I've done that one times x. I'm now doing this one times x. And 7x times x is 7x squared. And then finally, the third one times x. 10 times x is 10x. So I've now times each of the three terms here by x. What I need to do now is times each of these three terms by 3. So I'm doing x squared times 3, 3x squared. I'm doing 7x times 3. Well, that is 21x. And then I'm doing 10 times 3. And that is 30. And I'm now at a line where I have 6 terms. But you'll notice that some of these terms can be added together because I've got some x squareds, they can be put together, and I've got some x's, some terms of x, and they can be collected together. Now we normally do this in power order, so I'll start with my x cubeds. There's just one of those. Then my x squareds, I've got 7 here, and I've got 3 here. So altogether, I've got 10x squared. Let's look at my x's. I've got a 10x and a 21x. So that is 31x's. And I've got a number by itself. That is 30. And that is my 3 brackets expanded. So I said at the opening that this isn't a quadratic. It's not a quadratic because we have a power 3. So this is actually called a cubic expression. And we might have come across drawing a cubed graph. If we haven't seen a cubed graph yet, well, that's something that we'll be looking forward to later on in the GCSE. Let's look at a few more examples, make sure we've got the right idea behind this. Now, one thing that's quite important, it doesn't actually matter what order you multiply the 3 brackets in. Okay, just like 3 times 4 is the same as 4 times 3, and 2 times 3 times 4 is the same as 3 times 4 times 2. The order really doesn't matter, but what you will find is for every single question that I do in terms of my answers that I've provided, I will always multiply the first 2 brackets together and then bring the last one in at the end. And that's just consistency for you, and it's consistency with how I've shown you how to do it as well. If we're going to look at my second example, the first thing that I am interested in, and again, I think I'll just highlight this, I am going to be multiplying together these 2 brackets. So remember, big bracket first, firsts, x squared, outers, minus 5x. Inners, positive 3x. Lasts, negative 15. Tidy it up. X squared minus 5x and positive 3x is negative 2x. Take away 15. And let's drop back in our x minus 2 now that we haven't used. Now there's a few more negative signs lurking around this one now, so we're just going to have to be a little bit careful. So I'm now going to multiply all these 3 parts by x, and then I'm going to multiply all of these 3 parts by negative 2, and that's where I'm going to be careful. So x squared times x, x cubed, negative 2x times x, negative 2x squared, negative 15 times x, negative 15x. So that is all 3 parts multiplied by x. Now let's do the negative 2. Negative 2 times the x squared, negative 2x squared. The negative 2x times the negative 2. So negative times the negative, that one is going to be positive, positive 4x. And negative 15 times negative 2, positive 30. Tidying this one up, let's look for some families. Okay, well, I've got the x cubed, and I've got altogether negative 4x squareds. Here are my terms of x's. I've got negative 15 plus 4 more. That is negative 11x. And then plus 30. Now, I have said that order doesn't matter, okay? So you can actually change the order of a question. I'm still going to do this question the exact same way, doing the first two brackets first. But if you're really, really interested, I'm going to put a timestamp in the video where you can jump to the end and you can have a look at a different approach that I would actually use for solving this one, and I'll try and explain why. So I'm still going to look at it now the normal way, where I'm doing the first two brackets first. Okay? So I've brought in an extra number here just to make things a little bit more tricky. I don't think there's any extra numbers in the questions that you're going to try for me today, but we'll have a look at this one anyway. So I'm going to start getting into the habit now of dropping this first bracket straight away down. You can put it in afterwards, it's entirely up to you. So let's multiply out these first two brackets. X times 2x, 2x squared. Outers, plus 7x. Inners, minus 2x. Lasts, negative 7. Tidy it up. 2x squared and 7x and negative 2x leaves positive 5x and minus 7. Are you getting with the hang of this? Do you see what we need to do next? We're going to times each of these three terms by x and then each of these three terms by 1. So let's times them all by x. 2x squared times x, 2x cubed. 5x times x, 5x squared. Negative 7 times x, negative 7x. Times them all by 1, my favourite number to multiply by because they don't change. So we get a 2x squared, a positive 5x, and a minus 7. Tidy it up by collecting like terms. 2x cubed. Where are my x squareds? Well, I've got 5 and another 2. So that's 7x squareds. Tidy my x's together. Negative 7 plus 5 x's is going to leave us at negative 2x. And then negative 7. So remember, if you're interested in my other way of doing this question, just check out the timestamp in the description below. Right, this is going to be my final example. I've just introduced an indice, but we know what this means from last lesson. It would mean x minus 2 bracket twice if it's being squared, and then x plus 5. So I'm going to do these two brackets first. I'll pop my x plus 5 in already at the end. And I'm going to multiply out these using FOIL. We have x squared minus 2x minus 2x. And the only one we need to be careful with is the lasts. Negative 2 times negative 2 being positive 4. Tidy this up. X squared minus 4x plus 4 times x plus 5. Now, I did have one or two students last year when I taught this who forgot to do this tidying up stage and they went straight into the multiplying. It just ends up meaning you end up with way more terms and way more collection to do at the end. So always try and remember to tidy up your quadratic before multiplying by the last bracket. So I'm going to take each of these three terms and times it by x, and then times it by 5. So x squared times x, x cubed, minus 4x times x, minus 4x squared, 4 times x, 4x. And now I'm going to times these three terms by 5. X squared times 5, 5x squared, minus 4x times 5, negative 20x. And 4 times 5 is positive 20. Tidy it up. X cubed. Let's find my x squareds. I've got negative 4 and plus 5. That's going to get me back to 1. But remember, we just write the algebra when it's one of them. So it's 1x squared to x squared. Let's look at my x's. That's going to be negative 16x. And then I have got plus 20. So let me know what you think about this. Maybe leave me a message in the Ask the Teacher channel. I wasn't planning on spending a second lesson on this. You might say, oh, this took quite a while, sir. I'd like a little bit more practice. It's something we could maybe find some more time for. I'm only asking you to try 8 questions because I don't think anyone will get through more than 8 in the time that's remaining. So go back to my instructions, load up the PowerPoint. I've done the answers to all of these 8, so you'll be able to check your answers with a different colour, making any corrections you need. Don't forget that little extra solution in the timestamp. It's coming straight after me finishing talking in a moment. And finally, remember, please, please, please use the Ask the Teacher channel if there's any problems or you want me to go through some further examples. So year 10, this is for those students that were interested. I'm just going to show you a second way of doing this question. Okay, and we talked about the order not being important. Now, this is probably something you won't remember from year 9, but there's something interesting that happens when you have 2 brackets that are identical except for their sign. It's called the difference of 2 squares. And I know when I multiply out the difference of 2 squares as a quadratic, terms disappear, things vanish, and as a consequence, I'll end up with less terms, and to get to my answer, I end up having to do less work. So this is just something that I would recognise as a potential shortcut. There are no shortcuts like this in your questions that you're trying, but I just think mathematically it's quite interesting. So if I just change the order of this and choose to do it in this order instead, I multiply out these brackets first, and I end up with x squared, outers are plus x, inners take away x, and lasts are minus 1. And this is what I mean about it being easier and things cancelling, because when you simplify that first bracket, it's now just x squared take away 1. And my second bracket is 2x plus 7. So when it comes to multiplying this out, I can actually now do this one like using FOIL because it's 2 parts in each of the 2 brackets. So I end up with doing my firsts, 2x squared, doing my outers, plus 7x squared, plus... So multiplying this out, doing my firsts, I get 2x cubed. Doing my outers, I get plus 7x squareds. Doing my inners, I get minus 2x. And doing my lasts, I get minus 7. Which should be the same answer as what we got doing it the other way. So just a little bit quicker, but it's something with experience that you'd be able to spot.